Modern day luxury cars, like this beautiful Mercedes parked right back here, are known for their high quality levels of material and fit and finish, and we can't forget about their innovation and technologies that you often couldn't find in vehicles merely 5 or 6 years ago. But are in fact luxury cars worth that, when in fact modern day non-luxury car brands like this beautiful Toyota Camry right here deliver on so many of the same elements, and in some cases even better? Let's get into it now. So the first element that we need to discuss are features. Ultimately, everybody assumes that modern day luxury cars are going to have a lot more features embedded and buried within the skin of these beautiful vehicles than a lot of modern day vehicles like Toyotas may not have. But the reality is that's not entirely true. Let's make some comparisons. This gorgeous Mercedes-Benz here has these amazing, beautiful wheels wrapped with Continental skins. They're gorgeous. These are 18-inch rims by default on this base C300 Mercedes-Benz, while this Toyota also has beautiful wheels. These alloys have a wonderful laser cut design to them with this inserted black elements. It's a gorgeous two-tone rim, and yes, they're 18-inch wheels too. How about lights? Of course, this gorgeous Mercedes-Benz right here has these wonderful LED lights. They're absolutely very intricate. They look like a glassmaker created these LED strips here, projections, amazing looking lights. Well, these Toyotas also have LEDs. You'll see little LED accents around these projector lamps, so they also have a relatively high level of lighting capabilities. What about style? I mean, everybody knows modern luxury vehicles always have a lot of great styling detail. For example, gorgeous chin spoilers like we have here. We have this chrome trim along the bottom, a very aggressive stance, a pronounced set of rocker panels that actually stick out, make it look sportier than a lot of non-luxury car brands. Beautiful flares on the back that gives it a very pronounced and aggressive muscular stance. A set of dual exhaust tips. Of course, we have all-wheel drive systems and a backup camera that pops up when this goes in reverse. We also can't forget about what's on the roof of these cars. A lot of modern day luxury cars have even this full glass panel. In this case, flips up, slides back, and it provides a lot of light into the cabin for the happy consumers. On the Toyota, for example, we also have great little spoiler detail on the front. Although instead of that beautiful chrome, they keep it simple with a lower grade of plastic here. Instead, it wears well, but it doesn't look as luxurious. These fake vents here as well aren't quite as pronounced. They're more flush design versus the Mercedes, more inset and certainly looks like of a higher quality. Toyota does add in some nice detail on the front bumper here though, and it gives it an overall nice presence. The rockers, just like on the Mercedes, are also very pronounced and equally look sporty. They come back in there and it looks wonderful. You also have a nice little flare on the back and it gives it a sporting look. There's nothing vertical here anymore. These modern day Toyota Camrys actually do bring a lot of sport to the look. They also have a nice little splitter on the back, just like the Mercedes, and it has a set of dual exhaust tips, although it doesn't have it on both sides like on the Benz. And the Toyota also has these beautiful little accents and details similar to what the Mercedes is doing. On the Toyota, they also have a sunroof. While it's not the oversized piece like you see in the Benz, it in fact does have a sunroof. Now that is one place that they can cut costs. With that said, a lot of BMWs these days stick with a smaller sunroof like we're seeing on this modern day Toyota Camry. Another element is this. What is this? Well, it's a cell phone. Yes, that cell phone actually controls a lot of features. This is a 2018 Mercedes, and unfortunately in 19, they all of a sudden came up with some new technology. You can remote start your car with an application on your phone. You can also check all the health elements, the fuel levels, the temperature, as well as a lot of the other features of that vehicle. You can track it down as well. Sadly, this vehicle doesn't have it, but yet this brand new Toyota Camry has all those elements. You can remote start the car with the key fob. You can also run through the application, check the health of the vehicle, and remote start it as well. So there's nothing grandiose that the Mercedes does there that the Toyota actually doesn't. What about the interior of these vehicles for features? Let's look at that. Now the Mercedes has a lot of beautiful technology. Sure, you've got a lot of plastic in here, but you have a lot of high gloss finishing as well along the console of the dashboard. You have soft touch here and slow open and close within a lot of these compartments. Same thing here. It just relaxes itself open. That's a beautiful touch. You have your beautiful infotainment screen, and of course this comes with the 360 camera. It's absolutely gorgeous with the backup camera screen available within that. You have dual climate controls here in this particular car. You can operate your cell phone through this and program it so it all communicates with the car and remote hands-free. Beautiful integration here for your controls. You can run through the knob. On here you also have a touchpad, and that all controls everything through your screen. As well in the front, you'll notice we have programmable 3-position seats right there. Power seats, many different directions, and heated as well, as you can see right there. Beautiful touches. And all the parts are ergonomically correct. They're in a place where it's easy to access and you don't have to reach very far to get access to any of these buttons and knobs. Then we look in the back and you'll notice the seat slides forward on its own some. It's powered and gets out of your way easily for people to get in access to the back. You'll notice the interior as well has beautiful seats that don't just fold down and pass through, but they're absolutely heated, cooled. They're absolutely gorgeous there in every way. You have little separate speakers and your own little heater controls back here to allow your own airflow for the happy passengers in the back of this beautiful Mercedes. The seat actually rolls back on its own. You don't have to flip any of that back. What about the Toyota right over there? Now you'll look, this is a non-luxury car. It's a little simpler. You don't have all the power seat controls. Instead, you have manual seat controls here. You pump this up and it lifts the seat up. So you don't have all those power controls on the door. Things are a little simpler here. You only have this simple little lock and handle. There's no adjustable power seats here, no pre-programmed 3-position seats here, power lock controls and your power windows. But otherwise, things are a little simpler. With that said, we do have some nice touches here. Even though it's lower grade materials, we do have this beautiful stitching along the dashboard here, gunmetal gray finishing throughout the interior of this vehicle, and that carries along over there on the door panels. Here you do in fact have heated seats. You just don't have them on the door. They're down in the console instead, so you don't do without that element. You have wireless cell phone charging down there, push button start stop like in the Mercedes, and you also have the infotainment screen just like in the Mercedes as well. The ergonomics aren't quite as clean, and that's a big part of what you're getting when you're buying a Mercedes is all about the ergonomics and the design that you're getting in that vehicle, where things are a little simpler here. They're not quite as dialed up. They're not quite as luxurious feeling, even just from the seat here. They do have, in fact, some nice materials, so you don't feel like it's all that cheap. Your console like that, it's lift up. It's a very simplistic kind of design. Of course, back in here, it's a little sticky. And you'll notice the materials, instead of having that heat-cooled, beautiful leather seats, you actually have more of a pleather, and then you have an insert here with some fabric. So it's not quite as dressed up. Things are, in fact, a little bit tidier, and the design theme is just a little bit more pleasing to the eyes when you look and open that beautiful door in this Mercedes. Not as much going on in the back here, but again, you still have a window control. Obviously, in and out, you have some nice colored theme here. Of course, more of that brushed aluminum or essentially gunmetal gray metallics. You do have a lot of plastics here. And you do have this beautiful little magazine holder, but things are in fact a little bit simpler. You still do have some controls for your heating in the back here, and you do have flip down seats with a pass through right there. And you do have this beautiful flip down in the middle where you can put some drinks. As you can see, a lot of the features are very similar in these vehicles. It's just the way they bring it about. Mercedes often in a lot of the luxury cars bring things so they work nicer, they're cleaner, they do it even better, bigger sunroofs, better performance. And of course, you've got the additional seat controls that a lot of the non-luxury brands don't have. But what about the next element? And that's number 2, and we're talking about ergonomics of these particular vehicles. First of all, the Mercedes. When you open the door, and then you'll watch this actually retracts when you're looking for an opportunity to take off. This ejects, makes it easier so you don't have to reach for that seat belt. So we close the door. Now this comes out, so you actually don't have to reach very far. It's actually easier for you. As a passenger, you just reach over and away you go. Other things, obviously in a Mercedes, everything's at your controls. In your luxury vehicle like this, everything is where it needs to be. You don't have to reach too far. Everything's just a nice extension. You want to use the controls here, you don't even have to reach here. Some of these vehicles come with touchscreens, but easily you can just sit here and rest and your arms resting, and it's all about adjusting the controls that you'll see on the display there. You can do it all here. Very simple, easy and effective. Everything's nice and easy, no flip up, no excessive movement, everything's just nice. Right here, of course, you've got the controls on the paddle shifters. That's a big part of the ergonomics. It's all about pleasing. It's all about keeping you in comfort. That's what a lot of these vehicles are about. Toyota, on the other hand, or some of the non-luxury brands, come at it from a little different approach. There's some elements that they don't think so much about. For example, when I open this door, when you look at the door all the way, I basically the door's wide open, and all I have to do is basically a simple reach, and I can close the door. But check it out when we look at the Toyota. Get inside this vehicle, open the door all the way, and there you go. The door's open like it was on the Mercedes. And of course, this is a 4-door. So technically, each door should be slightly smaller, which is interesting why this is still a challenge. But we get in, climb on into a Toyota like this, and it's great. It's comfortable. A lot of the ergonomics do feel like they are where they should be. But instead, when you look, I've got to reach for the door. I pretty much got to grab a hold of this and reach way out. I'm almost outside of the car just to get a hold of that door handle and pull that in. That's a little different design. You really got to stretch. They're not thinking as much about ergonomics in the Toyota Camry here, at least with the doors are concerned. Now, the rest of the ergonomics isn't bad. As you can see, they actually curve. Everything's contoured to the driver's side. You can see you can reach here, but it is a bit of a reach. I'm finding I'm having to stretch a little bit because it's a larger car. It feels larger inside. To actually get at these buttons, I actually have to reach outwards. And of course, you can make these control adjustments here, but sitting back, this is my natural position. This is me leaning back against the seat. I can't actually touch it. I actually have to lean forward to actually be able to get these. So otherwise, leaning forward to get to the controls means that the ergonomics aren't exactly nailed. It's kind of missing the boat there. Some of these other controls are good. I mean, again, you have to reach ahead a little bit to get at some of these. To put your phone down here, you got to reach ahead. You got to reach ahead. You're doing sit-ups and crunches in here just to be able to reach some of these controls. Now, this is good. I mean, we have the paddle shifters, as we can see. We got here up, and on the other side, we have the downs. And of course, all these little controls on the steering wheel are nice and accessible. They're very easy to use, very user-friendly. And of course, all these controls on the door here are also within a good reach. So things are nice there. You also have nice access to both the heated seats, which is nice, because whereas the Mercedes, the heated seats are only on the door, meaning that I can't get the passenger seat going until a passenger gets in, or I have to climb over. That's an ergonomic mistake. Whereas Toyota has it a little bit better here in that they have them both here. I can preheat the seat better for Johnny Appleseed to climb on in there. I can have his seat warmed up first by just hitting his button and mine at the same time. Whereas the Benz, like I said, it's on the driver door or the passenger door in this position. The other part of the ergonomics is this. And there's nothing wrong with this. It works fine, but in the Toyota, you got to slide that back and forth, slide it back and forth. You can slide that, and then you've got the controls right here. Of course, you can run that. But basically, this gives you an option, but in the Mercedes, it's all done via push button. In the Mercedes, for example, all you do, you have this screen here. There's no handle. You don't have to pull that back. You just use the little lever here, press that once, and now that slides back all on its lonesome. And then you're good. And the second stage of hitting that button actually gets that sunroof open completely. The third element you have to ask yourself is all about depreciation. I mean, when you talk about luxury cars versus non-luxury cars, there can be a huge differential in terms of the money and the value retained. Now, while a Mercedes-Benz is typically an average vehicle in the luxury car segment that will depreciate quite heavily, the Toyota, on the other hand, is literally one of the best vehicles for retaining value. So this is a slightly skewed and unfair advantage. However, the conversation around depreciation is important, because is it worth buying a luxury car knowing that a car like this in 5 years is likely going to lose about 50% of its original value? 50 to 55% is gone. $50,000 brand new, and in 5 years it's only worth under $25,000. A Toyota Camry, on the other hand, like we have over there, in 5 years, it's still going to hold as much as 65% of its original value. So in other words, only about 35, maybe 40% is gone. And a big part of that depreciation comes with the simple fact that people trust Toyota products. They're safe, they're reliable, and they won't cost a lot of money. You need to do a set of brakes. It might only cost you about $800 all the way around for all the discs and pads and fluid, whereas on a Mercedes, taking it to the dealer might cost you $3,000. A turbo goes on a turbocharged Mercedes, that's going to cost you $3,000. A lot of Toyotas don't even have turbos. The automatic transmissions are going to be a lot more expensive. Headlights, fittings, materials, are going to be a lot more expensive to maintain and repair and replace on a Mercedes than on a Toyota. And that's why people are more confident in owning a Toyota out of warranty. They're more reliable and likely are going to be cheaper parts to replace. That's why a part of that depreciation hits used luxury cars so hard after 3 or 4 or 5 years. The fourth element that's so important to consider if you're debating whether in fact a luxury car is in fact worth it or not really boils down to performance. Which vehicle has the performance levels that you're looking for? Well, let's make a direct comparison between these two entry-level vehicles, and then I'll explain some of those and why in fact I would choose what I would. But let's look at the Camry first. Of course, what we're looking at here is a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. That means there's no turbos. It makes just over 200 horsepower, and it's a peppy little car. It's a little zingy, it's a little zippy, but it does howl and moan a little bit when you try to get on the throttle. It's not the most refined drivetrain if we're being honest, but in fact it is quite reliable. It's also made it up to an automatic transmission, but the unfortunate part is a lot of these modern day non-luxury cars are putting CVT transmissions in them, which make them crappy to drive. And CVTs are continuously variable transmission. It's pulleys and belts, and they're known for unreliability. Just ask Uncle Subaru what he thinks about CVTs and their reliability. Yeah, not so good. But unfortunately, a lot of the non-luxury brands go with the CVT transmissions, making them a poor driving experience, whereas almost every one of the luxury manufacturers out there actually step up to you either a double clutch transmission. You can find a lot of Audi products, or you can get an automatic transmission, torque converter, wet style type clutch, like you'd find in a lot of Mercedes, BMW, Jaguar, and all of those. As a matter of fact, BMW and the ZF 8-speed, as well as the same transmission you find in the Jag F-Type, shift almost as fast as a double clutch. They're lighter, they're more reliable, and they're cheaper to maintain, making them highly desirable. And then opposed to that 200 horsepower engine in the Toyota, this Mercedes here, in fact, has a different engine. What we're looking at here is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it is turbocharged, and the turbocharger is hiding down in there, and that makes this car a lot zippier. Not only does it have 50 horsepower more than the Toyota over there, but it has a lot more torque, just because turbocharged engines typically provide a lot more lower end grunt, and you get a much better, flatter driving experience. More peppy, more torque, better performance all the way around, and typically a lot quieter when you're on the howl or the boil as opposed to what you're finding in the Toyota. And for me, I don't want to wait for my performance. I like when I put the throttle down and I want to pass that clown that's in the left-hand lane doing 60 and 100 zone, that I want to be able to get around him and in a hurry. You can typically do that a lot better. More of the luxury cars typically step up their performance levels. And that's what a lot of people look for. They look for better shifting, more quieter transmissions, more powerful, zippier engines, and that's typically what you're going to get from most luxury car brands. Lexus is sort of the exception because a lot of the Lexus vehicles share the same drivetrains that you'll find in the modern day Toyotas, so you don't gain a lot by driving a Lexus, but Lexus do hold a significant amount of value because of the reliability. But other factors that add to the overall desirability of luxury cars, the handling. You have different camber setups, so they typically handle better in the corners. They're going to do a better job of keeping this car flat in the corners and the twisties. Of course, as well, as you'll see between these two cars, this car here has what we call a longitudinal engine configuration. In other words, the engine runs front to back, and then the transmission fires out. The primary drive is at the rear through a rear differential. Whereas most Toyota products, what you're having here is a 4-cylinder engine inline that runs this transversely mounted to a transaxle in the front, primarily to a front drive system, meaning it typically doesn't drive as well. You're going to have that front drive claw. Have you ever tried to floor a powerful front-wheel drive vehicle? It typically get torque steer and it starts to pull away in your hands. It doesn't feel very natural, whereas a rear-wheel drive car drives much better. Another element to the driving experience with the luxury cars is typically associated with brakes. Let's take a look at the Toyota brakes, and it maybe become a lot more clear to you as well. Down here in Toyota, you typically see these little brakes. You can see the little brake discs through there. They're basically just ventilated, but they're not cross-drilled. In other words, there's no holes in them, and they're quite small in diameter if you look at that. They'll do the job you ask for, but they could warp in extreme conditions. If you're doing a lot of aggressive driving or maybe some mountain drives and you got to use the brakes a lot, they could overheat quite easily, and they're definitely not a performance brake configuration as opposed to the Mercedes setup right here. You'll notice, look at the size of that caliper. Drastically different. We have a 4-pot caliper, much stronger clamping force, And you'll notice the brake discs here, not only are they ventilated on the end, but you'll see they're cross-drilled. You see those little holes there? That does allow them to shed more heat. In other words, less chance of them overheating, better chance of them actually maintain their gripping power. And you'll notice they're larger in diameter too. So the overall braking capacity of a Mercedes is going to grossly outshadow those of non-luxury type brands like you'll see in a Toyota Camry right there. Now with that said, a brake job will cost a lot more money, but you're actually getting a better product that's going to do a better job of keeping that vehicle performing at its most optimal. And that's something you have to think about, whether in fact the luxury car is truly worth it. Let's talk about number 5, and that's the safety impact. How safe are these two vehicles, luxury versus non-luxury? Is there a big difference? I mean, everybody assumes every vehicle today is crash tested to meet the demands of the marketplace. Yes, in fact, they are, but that doesn't mean every vehicle is exactly the same in terms of overall safety. Safety isn't always just about crash testing. There's other factors, like the electronics that actually keep the vehicle safe, monitor what's around them. It actually prevents certain incidents, allows you to look outside the back of the vehicle. There's a lot of technology now incorporated to bring safety right to the forefront. But let's take a look. Did you know that this Mercedes-Benz actually makes IIHS's top picks for one of the most safe vehicles on the road today? And a big part of that has to do with this. We're looking at a headlight right here, and because of their lights and because of the illumination and how bright they are, that's a big reason. They have a system that allows for curve detection, so as you're turning the corner, there's a little bit of a flex in the lighting to help you look around the corner to make sure that you can slightly see around those corners when you're turning the wheels and you're going around that bend in the road. These lights can help you do that. And Mercedes, in fact, has some of the most impactful and brightest headlights on the market today, whereas Toyotas are just average. They work, they're LEDs, they're projection, and they get the job done. Just not quite as effectively as the Mercedes-Benz over there. Now with that said, the Toyota Camry here actually has 10 airbags versus Mercedes and the 7 airbags that they include. Toyota does have radar cruise, stop sign detection, pedestrian warning, pre-collision detection, and Mercedes does other things too that are equally impressive. It actually has collision detection, which in the event of a collision, it'll close the windows, close the sunroof, it'll adjust these headrests so it'll accommodate for any kind of collision. It'll move forward slightly to prevent your head from getting whiplash too aggressively. So both of these vehicles have a large degree of technology to prevent you running into passengers, prevent you from taking the vehicle off the road because they'll keep you between the lanes. They have the radar cruise control. They have a lot of technology to keep them safe. So the bottom line is, which one's actually safer? They both have enough technology and structural rigidity to maximize your safety in the event of an accident, but even more important, to prevent collision entirely altogether. The other thing, of course, I will say accident avoidance might be slightly improved with the Mercedes, but because again, we spoke about the brakes, more powerful brakes, and accident avoidance is going to be better because the Mercedes typically handles better. Everybody paying increasingly more money for a luxury vehicle do carry the expectation that it comes with a significant quality increase. In other words, is that Mercedes-Benz a much higher quality vehicle than the Toyota Camry beside it? Let's do the quality experience right now, everyone. You're gonna love it. Let's go. Well, that feels a little more solid. Commonly touched area on this door here has a lot of little sharp edges on here, makes it uncomfortable. So let's do a cold start on both the Mercedes as well as the Toyota right now. Let's go. Smooth start, no noise. Let's take a listen under the hood. Smooth as silk. A little rattly injectors. Also no smoke, no weird noises other than one little squeal I heard under the hood. But let's take a look on this cold start Toyota Camry. So is in fact a luxury car worth it over something more garden variety? It really depends where your priorities lie. If you prefer and prioritize the driving experience, you like to have that big smile when you get behind the wheel, but you're not as worried about the dollars, absolutely the luxury car is always the way to go. If your only priority is lowest maintenance and running costs and all you want is a basic transportation to get to and from work or school, then obviously a luxury car is probably a disastrous way to go because it will cost you more to run. It will cost you more to maintain and fix, but it'll also going to lose more money in the long run. That's where a car like this will likely be for the money-minded who don't really want to give all their hard-earned dollars away to the driving experience. With that said, there's no doubt in my mind very few non-luxury brands can compete with their luxury brand counterparts for the overall ergonomics, performance, style, innovation, technology. Literally, the luxury car segment has it all covered and clearly is worth the dollars if that's what you want. And with all of that said, I'm sure you're gonna love this video. We talk all about the Honda versus Mercedes-Benz reliability comparison, and I know you'll enjoy it. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll catch you real soon. Bye-bye.